Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Paul Guidry, and I'm a criminal justice instructor and been doing that for about 15 years. But I'm also a volunteer with the Louisiana Parole Project, and I volunteer my time to assist y'all with how do we interact with police in the 21st century, basically, right? And so I'm going to give you a little bit of advice on that. But before I get started, I do want y'all to know that I'm very proud of you. I consider it an honor to be with each and every one of you, and I know each and every one of you are going to do well in your community because you have family there to support you. You have the Louisiana Parole Project there to support you. I'm here to support you, and your parole officers are there to support you. So if you have any questions, any concerns about anything, always ask, okay? And so don't be afraid to do that. And I want each and every one of you to keep moving forward. Not every day is going to be easy. There are going to be, peaks and valleys in the trials and tribulations of life. But you have a lot to be proud of. And if you need that assistance or you have any concerns, let someone know, okay? So that's a little bit of personal advice for you guys. All right, so what is my job here today? My job is to help y'all with police interaction. And I know y'all probably hear things about, policing that's been happening for about the last 5 or 10 years. But the reason why I want y'all to have a little bit of training on that interaction is, these times are dangerous, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can as civilians to comply with whatever directives there may come if we are pulled over by police. And so, number one, make sure you have a driver's license. I'm sure everybody's going to want to get their ID. Make sure you keep that ID on your person at all times. That driver's license is important. That driver's license just means that you are going to comply with all Louisiana traffic codes that are out there in the books for us to follow. But more importantly, you also know that if you get that driver's license and you purchase a vehicle, you got to have insurance and registration. That is also the law. So those three items, you got to have them, right? Now, when you are driving, number one, keep your license on your person, right? Don't leave it lying around, because if someone gets a hold of your identification, they can steal your identity, and that's just another thing you're going to have to deal with, and you don't want to do that. But number two, that registration, that insurance. I know back in the day, even when I was, first driving, put it in your glove box, put it in your console. But you know what happens when we put it in our glove box and our console? We put all other kinds of gobbledygook in there, right? And then when we pulled over, we're trying to scram around, look for it, and we can't find it, right? So my advice today to y'all, as well as my students when I teach them, is that you put that registration, that insurance in your visor. So get like a little clothespin, a paper clip or something, and keep it there. That way when you are pulled over by police, you can readily access your driver's license, whether it's, in your wallet or your purse, keep it near you. But you can also readily access that registration, that insurance. You don't have to fumble around looking for it in that console or that glove box, okay? Because that makes police nervous because we're moving. And police don't like us moving during a traffic stop. They want us to kind of remain calm and steady, right? So, for example, if you guys were police officers and you pulled over Dr. Guidry for a traffic citation, whatever that is, right? You're going to ask for those three items: license, registration, insurance. We know the drill, right? So what I would do if you guys were asking me that question is I would repeat back to you that, sirs, ma'ams, I'm going to go ahead and reach in my back pocket or my wallet or my purse for my driver's license, and sirs, ma'ams, I'm going to go ahead and reach in my visor for my registration and insurance. Now, the reason why I would repeat that back to you guys if you were police officers is I want y'all to understand that I am fully cognitive of what you are asking me to do. And by doing that, that lets you know that I'm not being combative, I'm not trying to resist, I'm there to cooperate. And by repeating that back, what you request of me, it helps you understand that. And it kind of sets the tone where, things can kind of be somewhat on a calm and even level, so to speak, if that's the right words to use. So always remember that. So never be afraid, to say, sir, ma'ams, I'm going to go ahead and get my driver's license in my wallet or my purse. Sirs, ma'ams, I'm going to go ahead and get my registration, my insurance for my visor, and give it to them. That lets them know that you understand what is being requested of you. In addition to that, there's less movement. Okay, if you leave stuff in your console, under your seat, in your glove box, wherever, in the back seat, the trunk, the more movement that we're doing in a traffic stop, the more likely a police officer is going to get suspicious. Okay, and I'll talk about suspicion in a second. But they're going to become nervous. Okay, and we don't want that. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind should you ever be stopped. Now, what I will tell you, being stopped on the side of the road is one of the most dangerous moments for a police officer. So if you guys were police officers and I was training you, I would tell you, say, look, traffic stops are one of the most dangerous stops we can make as police officers. So that's why I tell y'all to keep your license on your person and keep that registration, that insurance close by. Because the less we move, the less likely, police officers, may think or do something. They won't become suspicious. I don't know if y'all remember the guy named Philando Castillo back in Minnesota some years ago. He did everything right in a traffic stop, and he still lost his life. So that's why I give y'all that advice today, that just be compliant, and within 15-20 minutes, the traffic situation or the stop should be over and done with at that point. So keep that in mind. Now, there's two reasons why police officers can stop us during, in terms of a vehicle or a vehicle stop. Number one, if they got probable cause, and y'all know what that is, it's part of your Fourth Amendment. That means we got facts and evidence that show that this individual, more likely than not, committed this traffic violation. So if y'all saw Mr. Guidry speeding, if you saw Mr. Guidry with his tail light out, if you saw Mr. Guidry not using his turn signal, you got your probable cause to stop me at that point, right? And give me a warning or give me a ticket. Who knows what the scenario would be, okay? Probable cause, okay, that is key, because then, we got evidence to show that you made some sort of violation. However, police can use something less than probable cause, and that's called reasonable suspicion. Doesn't mean we did anything wrong yet, but something doesn't look right. So for example, if y'all were following Dr. Guidry along I-10 and you were police officers for Baton Rouge Police Department, and you saw Mr. Guidry speeding up, slowing down, tapping his brakes, whatever the case may be, kind of weaving a little bit, but still between the lines, right? At that point, you guys could maybe use, you could use reasonable suspicion to pull me over, because you may assume that I may be under the influence of some drug or alcohol, whatever the case may be, right? We can do that as police officers. So you would use that reasonable suspicion to pull me over to conduct an investigation to see what's really going on, okay? At that point, when you pull me over, yes, I could be drinking a bunch of Budweisers and I'm drunk out of my mind. Yes, when I roll down my window, it might smell like the ganja and stuff like that, right? Then I got some problems at that point. You would have probable cause at that point to make an arrest or give me a citation. But sometimes when police officers pull people over with reasonable suspicion, that individual could actually be going through a medical condition, and that has happened, right? I could be having a heart attack. You don't know it. You might think I'm drunk, okay, or under the influence of something, but when you pull me over and you get to my vehicle, you just notice that I'm going into a diabetic coma, seizure, or I'm having a full-blown heart attack or stroke right before your very eyes. That stuff happens, okay? So what's the moral of the story? Reasonable suspicion doesn't mean that if we use it, doesn't mean that someone's committed a crime just yet. It just allows police officers to further investigate. So imagine, you guys, if you saw Dr. Guidry downtown Baton Rouge behind the River Center at 2 o'clock in the morning with his car running and his running lights on, right? That's suspicious. If you guys are police officers, you could check it out. Doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong, but you could check it out, okay? Now, it could be that I'm fixing to burglarize the place, or it could be that I'm drunk and intoxicated and just stopped there, but you don't know that until you make that contact. So always be aware that police can stop us, initiate a stop for something less than probable cause, because it just doesn't look right. And that's where that reasonable suspicion comes in. All right. So another thing I'm going to advise you guys on, this should really be number one, especially when someone may say, look, you know what, I may be giving you a ride somewhere, right? Be cautious with that. A lot of people have good intentions, but be careful who you hang around with. Be careful who you take a ride with. You don't know if they have certain things in their vehicle that you're not supposed to be around. They could have multiple things of contraband in that vehicle. And if the police pull that individual over that gave you a ride or that you're riding with, has a gun, drugs, alcohol, that's just more things that you're going to have to explain. And you don't want to have to do that, right? Because it can lead to bigger problems for you. So what I always tell folks is, hey, you know what? Don't be afraid to ask someone if you're riding with, hey man, you don't have nothing in the car, right? I mean, no guns or anything like that, knives, needles, whatever, right? Don't be afraid to ask that, right? You've worked too hard to get to where you're at, okay? Don't jeopardize that. Never be afraid to ask those questions. Because remember, if you don't think it's right, get out of there, right? Your gut will always tell you. And if that gut's telling you, man, it just ain't right, then get away from there. Just walk to wherever you're going, all right? You don't need to deal with that drama. I'm just letting you know, okay? I got to be real with you, all right? So be careful. People have good intentions, but when you get in a vehicle with somebody and that somebody's got some contraband and they ended up getting pulled over and then the cops notice the contraband or the gun or whatever, you might have some explaining to do as well, and you don't want to have to deal with that. You've worked too hard to get to where you're at right now. All right. So another thing is, keep in mind that when you guys, are accused of a crime, right? Let's say you're accused of a new crime. I always tell people that if you're ever accused of a crime that someone says you committed, I highly recommend you get yourself an attorney, okay? I know you may be on parole, but at the end of the day, here's the deal. If you commit a new crime, you still are not required to testify or implicate yourself because of the Fifth Amendment. So always remember that. Now, I'm not talking about your parole officer or anything like that, because if I was on parole and you guys were my parole officer and I committed a new crime, that's actually grounds for revocation because I wasn't compliant with the rules and regulations of parole. But when it comes to addressing that new crime by itself, okay, you still have the right to take the Fifth Amendment. That's why it's important that you get an attorney. Okay, I want to remind you guys about that. Because at the end of the day, the burden of proof ain't on me or you. The burden of proof is on the state if they're accusing us of a new crime, okay? So I just wanted to put that little bit of advice in there as well. Yes, your rights are somewhat restricted when it comes to your parole policies and procedures that you got to comply with. But always remember, if someone accuses you of a new crime, you can take the Fifth Amendment, and you should, okay? Because you want to make sure things are done correctly, and you want to make sure you're owed your due process, okay? That's why we have the Constitution of the United States. That's why we have those Bill of Rights, to ensure that we have some protections against the state should the state accuse us of a crime. Look, guys, if there's any questions or any concerns about that, just let me know. But always keep in mind this. Be careful who you hang around with. When you're riding around, make sure you got your license, your registration, your insurance. Put those things in a place that's easily accessible. Make sure if you are stopped that you comply with the police officer's directives, okay? And repeat that back to them, okay? Because it'll make things go that much smoother. Oh, one other thing. Often, some folks during this little training session ask me various questions, but probably the most common question I get is, do I have to, what if the police officers find out I'm on parole? Is that a possibility? Yes, okay. So because of one's record, let's say Dr. Guidry was on parole, and of course you guys pull me over and you find out I'm on parole because you're calling dispatch and you want to get some information on Dr. Guidry. Yes, could you ask me if I was on parole? Yeah, you could ask me. Should I answer that? Yes, you should. Just be honest about things, okay? So, if you guys came to my window and said, hey, Guidry, are you on parole? I'd be like, yep, I'm on parole. Hey, Guidry, where are you going? Well, I'm going to my house. Where do you live at? I live down the road on 1370 Hampton Drive. Okay, where are you coming from? I'm coming from work, man. I was working, as a fire watch at the Exxon plant for, 12-hour shifts. Just be honest about that. Okay, from my experience as a police officer, when I pulled people over, if they were just honest, then we were good. However, I also ran into instances where I would ask, hey, where are you going? Well, I'm going just over there. Where's over there? Who are you going to see? I'm going to see a friend. What's your friend's name? Where do they live at? What's their address? And sometimes these guys don't know any of that. They're making stuff up. Okay, they don't know where they've been, much less they don't even know where they're going. That makes police officers suspicious. So always tell the truth. And I don't mean this as any disrespect to anyone, but being on parole is grounds for suspicion for a police officer, because they're wanting to know, hey, what's going on here, right? And I'm giving you that as good advice. Okay, so just remember that. Just answer their questions and don't lie about it. Just tell the truth. Okay. Also, however, I will also tell you that if a police officer ever disrespects you, they're cursing you, they're treating you like a piece of whatever, right? Now is not the time to address it on the side of the road, because the outcome, should you try to address it on the side of the road, is not going to be beneficial to you. So what I tell people, some people say, well, what if a police officer searches my car, but I didn't give him permission to search it? Okay, don't address it then. Okay, go the next day, go to Baton Rouge Police Department, state police, whomever, and file a complaint against that officer. Okay, if a police officer has probable cause to search your vehicle, like if I was smoking weed or drinking beer, they can search my vehicle. Okay, but if they have they can even search it if they have reasonable suspicion. If there's something that's just not right, maybe moving around a lot, maybe he's trying to conceal something on his person, a weapon or something like that. Police officers can kind of snoop around for that, right? But if police officers have no reason to search your vehicle other than they pulled you over for not using your turn signal, right? Because sometimes police officers will ask to search your vehicle just to see if you allow them to do that. You're under no obligation to do that, okay? However, they do it against your will and they clearly violated your rights, could you address that later on? Yes, but just don't do it on the side of the road. File a complaint, okay? So just want to give you those tips. If you have any questions about that, just ask Kelly or someone at the Louisiana Parole Project, okay? Just stay focused on doing the right thing and using your family, the Parole Project, myself, or your parole officer to help you stay on target, stay on path, right? Guys, if you need anything, you let me know. This is Dr. G Money. I consider it an honor to be with each and every one of you. And if you have any questions about police interaction, reach out to me. Parole Project knows how to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you, okay? Stay safe, be careful, and number one, don't get caught slipping. All right, folks. Y'all have a great, great week and afternoon.